A man arrives at his wife's birthday party. He then sees that she was pregnant, which greatly surprises him. He then asks what was going on there, as he was there to surprise her on her birthday and she was pregnant. She then says she can explain and asks the people who were there to give her privacy to talk to her husband. The man then says he was in the army working hard to be able to provide a better life for both of them, and when he got home, his wife was pregnant with another. He then asks whose child it was. She then says that she could explain and that it wasn't what he was thinking at all. He then says that he had gone to his house to surprise his wife, but he was the one who ended up being surprised to find her pregnant with another. She then asks him to let her explain the situation to him, but he says that there was no explanation. He then says that he wanted her to leave his house and his life, as he didn't want to see her anymore. He says he was working hard to give her a better life and she was cheating on him. She tries to explain herself, but he doesn't want to hear what she has to say. Later, the man walks sadly down the street when a friend of his asks how he is doing. He says he was in very bad shape, because when he got home he found out that his wife was cheating on him with another man. The friend then tells him to take it easy and tells him to talk to his wife. He says he had no explanation for that, as he could see that she was pregnant and the child was not his. He then asks where his friend was going. He says he was going to her birthday. The friend then says it wasn't what the man was thinking. The man then asks if it was his friend who got his wife pregnant. He says no and that the man was getting it all wrong and was freaking out for no reason. He then asks the man to let him explain the situation to him. The man then asks what the real story was and why his friend didn't tell him what was going on earlier. He says he couldn't tell, because who should tell the real story to the man should be his wife. The man then tells his friend to tell him the whole story soon. He says he couldn't tell, but it was time he knew. This makes the man impatient and he says he was going crazy with the whole thing as he didn't know anything about what was going on with his wife. The friend then says that as he already knew, his wife was working overnight. One day, after work, a man ambushed her on the way and dragged her into the bush. He then says that the man's wife ended up being raped. This leaves the man perplexed. The friend then says that this was the moment his wife needed him the most. Saddened, the man realizes that he had just had an argument with his wife on her birthday, but that he had no way of knowing any of that, as his wife had no contact for him. The friend then says that the man should go talk to his wife, as things between them could get worse. The man then apologizes to his friend and thanks him for letting him know what happened. Later, the man arrives at his house. His confused wife greets him. He says he needed to talk to her, because he was aware of everything that happened. He then says that his friend had contacted him all about what happened and asks why she didn't contact him sooner. She says he didn't give her a chance to tell. He says that she should have contacted him much earlier and that when he got home he was scared by it. She then tells him to try to understand her situation as she was afraid of being rejected by her husband. The man then says that he would live his whole life feeling guilty that he left his wife alone and she ended up having to work nights. She says that there was nothing to be done, because she needed to work and that she suffered a lot with what happened. He then promises that he would never again leave his wife alone and whatever she needed, he would be by her side always. She says she really appreciates her husband's support as she has nightmares every night about what happened. She says she doesn't want to take the child away and the man says he would take over the child and take care of both of them. She then asks if the man would do that for her and he says yes, that he would never leave his wife again, because he had already done that once and would never do it again. She then says that the bigger problem wasn't that one, but the man's brother. The man then asks what happened to his brother. She says that the man's brother followed everything that happened and that as the police had done nothing to help her, the man's brother ended up trying to resolve the situation himself. The man then asks what had happened to his brother. She says that when he found the person, he ended up fighting with him and shot him. The man then asks where her brother was, and she says he was under arrest. The man is then desperate for everything that had happened while he was away. His wife was pregnant with someone else, his brother was in prison. The woman then says that the most important thing at the moment was to get his brother out of prison, as he had helped her a lot. The man then says that together they would resolve the situation and that he would get his brother out of prison, and the woman says she was sure of that, but she asks the man to never leave her alone again. Sometime later, the two went to the prison to find the man's brother. Arriving there, he hugs his brother. The brother says that he had to save his brother's wife as he couldn't leave things that way. The man says he should have contacted him for him to try to do something before he did something so extreme. The brother then says that he couldn't leave things as they were as the man wasn't, so he had to protect his wife. The woman then says that she thanks her a lot, but that with that he ended his own life. He says he did it for a good cause and would do it again if necessary. The man then asks if he had a lawyer to handle his case. The brother then says that he did not have a lawyer, because as his family had no money, he could only rely on the public defender. The man then says that it would not stay that way and that he would hire a lawyer to get his brother out of prison soon. The brother then says that he was very happy that he was back. The two then say they would get him out of there. Sometime later, the man comes home and greets his wife. He says he has a surprise for her, and she asks what it was. He says she wouldn't believe what it was, and she tells him to tell her soon. He then hands her a flower and she thanks him. The man then says it wasn't just that. He then shows her the clothes he had bought for the baby. The woman says it was wonderful and she couldn't believe she had such an amazing man in her life. The man then promises his wife that he would take care of that child as if it were his own. He then says that that wasn't the only surprise for her. He says he would get it. He then shows his brother and says that that was the biggest surprise for her, because he had managed to get his brother out of prison. She then says that she was really glad he got out of prison and that it was really nice to see him. The man then says that it had been difficult, but he managed to get his brother out of prison and that he had brought a gift too. She then thanks the two for having them in her life and says she doesn't know what she would do without the two of them in her life.